Alright, Games Workshop just released another update for Edge of Sigmar 3rd Edition. Among the updates are two more Cruel Boy specific changes. My name is Moss, and I'm going to do a quick review of the changes for this update and what they mean for the Cruel Boys army. So first we have Rally. So we added the following text to the rule. You can only return models to that unit that have a combined wound characteristic of 10 or less. For example, if the unit that received the command has a wounds characteristic of 2, you can return a maximum of 5 models to the unit. So, this change has almost no impact on our army specifically. The chances that we would rally and get more than 10 wounds worth of units is super unlikely, given that we don't generally double reinforce our units. The highest impact that I could see is if we are playing Rockgut Troggoth allies. So the maximum that we could get is 2 models returned. So if you're running a unit of reinforced Rockgut Troggoths, you can only get 2 models back. But, you know, like 2 6s out of 5 is like above average already. So, I mean, it's not really going to have a big impact on our army. Therefore, this rule change helps our army indirectly by nerfing powerful rallies in other armies. So, I mean, you know, small change, but I'll take it. It's not bad. They also changed Arcane Tome. Essentially, you can't give it to someone that's already a wizard or a priest or has the Corn keyword. The Corn is I think just thematic, but you can't give it to a wizard to get an extra cast, and you can't give it to a priest to do the double utility. So again, this doesn't, like, we can still give Arcane Tome to the heroes that we want. So this change is not affecting to whom we can give the Arcane Tome. However, the bearer of the Arcane Tome becomes a wizard that only knows the Arcane Bolt and Mystic Shield spell. If you take a spell lore enhancement, you can't pick any spells from that spell lore for the bearer to know, and the bearer can attempt to summon any endless spells included on your roster if otherwise eligible. They can attempt to cast 1 spell in your hero phase and attempt to unbind 1 spell in the enemy hero phase. So we have a really good spell lore, but bad casters. So if you want to stick your Artifact of Power onto like a Sludge Raker, you're really only taking it for Mystic Shield. That's all you're really going to be able to get. So you must now ask yourself a question: is Arcane Tome worth taking for Mystic Shield and Arcane Bolt alone? Mystic Shield is good in our army due to the general low saves that we have, but now comparing it to other artifacts of power, like giving Vial of Manicore Venom to a Break-a-Boss's Ironbound Clubs, or other options like that, feels a lot better now in comparison. You might still want to take Arcane Tome if you're running endless spells, but otherwise I would start to experiment with other options to see what else you might like to play with. So overall, this change I think is good. I think this is a good change. I think everyone was taking Arcane Tome and people were getting a lot of value out of it. So this just means that you'll see it a lot less, and I kind of think that's good. The universal artifacts of power and the universal enhancements in general should not be the go-to for almost every army. 44% win rate. I haven't verified this fact for myself, but I saw a post and someone said that this is our 7th month, or the 7th win rate update. I can't remember what it's called, that where we're actually at the bottom. So I haven't verified that myself, but we certainly have been at the bottom for a while, according to Games Workshop. I know that there's other websites and other statistic data sets where we're not always at the bottom, but Games Workshop says we are, so we're the only one on this list that's in red. Oh no. And then Iron Jaws being close to the very bottom of the list. Like, Big Wah is in the top kind of third, maybe, looks like, or close to the top third, so that's good. And then where's, like, the Bone Splitters and Big Wah are actually kind of the same, sitting at a 51% win rate, so that's good. So if you're a Cruel Boys player and you're interested in winning, you might want to take all of your Bolt Boys and go play with the Iron Jaws and go do Big Wah. Anyway, so this season has not been very kind to us, but I don't think that the problem with our army is limited to the season. But let's check out the actual changes they made to Cruel Boys, because that might be able to help us out. So the first thing that they did was they changed the first sentence of Dirty Tricks to read after the players have received their starting command points, but before the start of the first turn, you can pick 2 different dirty tricks and employ them during the battle. So I'm both disappointed and optimistic that all but one of the changes on this list here have been made for Cruel Boys, right? There's 5 changes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and only one of them is Bone Splitters. So it means that our army was released with some serious deficiencies, but also that Games Workshop has been working to improve upon this initial release. In this update, now that we get 2 dirty tricks instead of 1, I mean, like, I'll take it. I still don't like how unpredictable these dice rolls can be. I would have rather only picked 1 dirty trick, but changed the dirty tricks. But more dice means that we'll be closer to the average more often. I think the best one is still Noisy Racket, given that it's guaranteed. And the worst is still Covered in Mud, because Grit and Blades give 12 inches of invisibility, and that's generally the subfaction that we play. I think you'll most likely pick Noisy Racket and Disappearing Act. That's if your opponent is running multiple small units, where Disappearing Act, you can really take advantage of it. And if they're not, then Lethal Surprise. Covered in Mud might be good, a good second choice situationally if you're running big yellers. But, I mean, and depends on the battlefield, right? Because you don't have to decide ahead of time. That's one thing I like about Dirty Tricks. You can see how your opponent's deployed, what they've done before you make your choices. Same with Super Sneaky. So I like that. It's like we get some information before we apply our tricks, so that's good. So Scare Tactics for Gut Rippers has been changed significantly. It now reads: subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by enemy units that are not heroes and not monsters that target this unit. This change has me pretty excited. I've been complaining about this ability and suggesting it as a point to improve the army as a whole since I started making YouTube videos. There are a few interesting implications. First, it always works. There's no dice. You don't have to roll. It just always works. No chance of failure. This is particularly better against units that have high bravery, like, let's say, Deadwalker Zombies with a bravery of 10. Second, this ability now works in all phases. If non-hero, non-monster units are fighting your Gut Rippers, they suffer -1 to hit. Any phase, anytime, doesn't matter. Previously, it would trigger in the charge phase and would only apply in the following combat phase. So now, that -1 sticks around as long as the Gut Rippers stick around. So if they're locked in combat, then you can still get that -1 to hit. This is nice. It also means that, like, a reinforced unit of Gut Rippers, I think, is marginally better now, because, like, the fact that if you can get them to stick around in combat, I think that's good. Like, if you can throw a Mystic Shield on these guys, all-out defense them, and then they get -1 to hit, I think that that's significant. I think that might be the change that we needed to get us up off the bottom, but we'll see. Yeah, -1 to hit is better than +1 to save, because you're applying that filter to a larger number of dice, right? So that's really good. Yeah, so they're more survivable. It's great. Like, I'm a big fan. I like this change. So overall, I'm happy with the changes. I can't wait to see us not being at the bottom of the chart for the 8th time in a row. I got my fingers crossed. So we'll see. Tell me if you're going to throw something different on the table. I don't think that these changes are going to change any of my lists. I think that it's just going to make my lists a little bit better. So yeah, thanks for checking out this video. Be sure to stick around and check out what else I got going on. If you have any Cruel Boy art that you'd like to share for me to feature on the channel, please do. Thanks again to Goblin Town for sending me these awesome photographs of his very interestingly designed and painted Cruel Boy army. I really appreciate it. All right, so until the next one, like, subscribe, and wah.